Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you. So today we're going to be talking about pain, and in particular chronic pain within the body. So before we talk about that, I want you to write down below here, what one pain is it that you're experiencing every day in your life, or on a regular basis, if not every day? It could be a physical pain, maybe a mental pain, but what one pain are you experiencing in your life that nags on you, that affects your life? It impacts your life negatively in some shape, form or way. Write that down below here. If not below, write it to me privately, send me a private message and let me know what is the pain that you're experiencing. It could be back pain, it could be headaches, it could be neck pain, it could be knee aches, it could be hip pain. Whatever the pain may be, okay, it may just be mental stress, which is a form of pain in itself. So write it down below here. Now, why do I want to talk about pain? Up until a few years ago, I used to experience a lot of physical pain each and every single day of my life. And in the last 4 years, I've come to know and identify that chronic inflammation is the most important factor in terms of pain in our bodies. Chronic inflammation is a form of inflammation that our bodies experience. We either experience acute inflammation, i.e. we cut ourselves, we knock ourselves, bruise ourselves, twist an ankle. You get that acute inflammation in the body where you get the immediate swelling up. If you don't treat that significantly well, if you don't treat it properly in the way that it should be treated, then what can happen is that acute pain can then convert into chronic pain. So it becomes a long-term pain. And it doesn't necessarily, it's not only exclusive to injuries, but over time, our bodies, through wear and tear, we may be playing sports, we may just have unhealthy habits, and also very significantly unhealthy eating habits. And these all lead and are major players in terms of chronic inflammation in our body. So what does chronic inflammation do, and how does it cause pain? We have approximately 50 trillion cells in our bodies, and each and every single one of those cells has a membrane, and that membrane is literally the cell's brain. Membrane, just spelled slightly different, but it is essentially the cell's brain, okay? And with inflammation, that cell membrane becomes very rigid, and it is no longer fluid enough to allow nutrients that we eat and consume into our body, and it doesn't allow the toxins that build up through our eating, through the air we breathe, and all kinds of different factors. These toxins that build up in each and every single one of these cells, when that cell membrane becomes rigid, it doesn't allow for the toxins to be expelled out of the cell. Okay, so why is this important? Well, for one specific reason is in that as those toxins build up in the cell gets more and more inflamed. Okay, toxins at the end of the day, so they're not good for us, and our body should be able to get rid of them, but it's not able to because the cell membrane is too rigid, and then the cell just inflames and inflames and inflames even more, and then we get this onset of certain diseases like cancers, amongst others. Okay, so this is why it's important for us to be aware of the level of chronic inflammation in our bodies, I believe. Obviously, if health is not important to you, then you may as well switch off from here on in, because if your health or somebody else's health is important to you, then it is important to understand and know, in my opinion, as a professional, as a wellness professional for more than 22 years, that we know what the chronic inflammation levels in our bodies are. And we know what's affecting that chronic inflammation in our bodies at the same time. With that in mind, we could be eating foods on a daily basis that, yes, we enjoy, pleasurable to us, like sugars and salty foods and so forth, processed foods, ultra processed foods, loads and loads of carbs without supplementing or substituting with fresh foods, nutritious foods, high density foods on a regular basis. We're eating more of these salty, processed, sugary foods on a daily basis than we are fresh, healthy, life-giving foods. All right, then what happens over time as our body gets older, that chronic inflammation increases within our bodies, and even for children as well. One thing that I market is a blood test. We've done nearly 1 million blood tests globally, right? And from those blood tests that we conduct, we've identified that 98% of the global population experiences chronic inflammation in their bodies in one form or way or another. Okay, and even with children, many children suffer with chronic inflammation. because their diets are just not rich in life-giving nutrients and minerals, and they're not eating enough foods that are more natural than processed, eating more processed than natural, and that in the long term is going to be very damaging to their health. And in some cases, even in the short term, many kids are experiencing a range of health related conditions that are not their fault, but because of the diet that they've been given, the foods that they're eating, amongst other things, the stresses in society and life, and all the distractions that kids are faced with today, and adults in the same breath. Okay, speaking of same breath, I'm struggling for my breath. I'm walking uphill now. I've just been walking up a fairly steep hill, and I still got more to climb up there as I'm walking the dog. So all of these factors compound within our body, and as we get older, our body naturally slows down its processes, and it's not as vibrant and as youthful as it was before. And what happens is the body is not able to recover as quickly as it was able to before, and therefore counteract all of these negative influences that are being put and ingested into the body. So for example, if you've ever played a sport, like I used to play rugby, if you've ever played a contact sport in particular, or a high impact sport where there's a lot of stress on your body, even swimming for that matter, if you're a competitive swimmer, when you're younger, things like shoulder injuries and so forth didn't really play a significant part in your life, I trust. And as a rugby player like myself, when I played rugby when I was younger, injuries would come and go, but I would get over there very quickly. Now, if I get an injury now, even though I'm healthy, it just takes a little bit longer for those injuries to recover or to heal, typically. All right, not always, but typically. And the same goes for all of us. And if you're not a typically healthy individual, or maybe health is important to you, but you don't focus so much on your health and what foods that you're ingesting and liquids you're putting into your body, then that chronic inflammation will build up quite significantly, to the point where you start to acquire certain conditions and ailments. And I have people saying to me, but I never had this problem before. I'm more like, yeah, exactly. Problems don't just stick around and decide to pop up one day. They build up over time. They problems will be in your body, and they will just develop and evolve and grow over time, like chronic inflammation will in your body. Your body experiences chronic inflammation, but it doesn't just hit its peak on day one. It builds up over time, and eventually we get to a point where the body's not able to get rid of those toxins fast enough that are in those cells, and we're not able to absorb the healthy foods that maybe we now are eating enough. We're not able to absorb enough of it because the cells are so swollen and they're experiencing chronic inflammation, and those membranes are so rigid that it doesn't really matter then. So what we've got to do is this. We need to figure out a way in which we can reduce that chronic inflammation. And there are a number of ways in which we can reduce the chronic inflammation in our bodies. One I found to be the easiest and most practical way of doing is through a particular product that I also market. All right, but that's besides the point. What I'm trying to get to here is that it's our responsibility, and especially I believe as parents. If you're a parent and you've got kids, obviously you've got kids if you're a parent, or maybe you've got dogs, animals, pets, but you want to be around for those kids. You want to be able to spend quality time with your kids. Maybe you've got elderly parents and you need to be there for them. But if your health is in a bad state and you can't function at your optimum because your health is not allowing you to do that, then there's something that needs to be done about it. And as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, that the science and the data will show you that 98% of the world's population is experiencing chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation, again, the science will show you this. Chronic inflammation is the main factor behind diseases and conditions that we all experience on a daily basis, or we don't experience for that matter, depending on our health. But chronic inflammation is the precursor to many diseases and lifestyle diseases that we see around us on a daily basis. Maybe you're not experiencing it directly, but indirectly in your life, you know somebody that perhaps has Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer of some kind. Maybe somebody in your life can't get around, they're wheelchair bound because of the state of health of their body or the lack of health in them. I trust that this message has shown you that it is really important that we do understand how much chronic inflammation, how much inflammation we have going on in our bodies, and whether the foods and the lifestyle that we are living are actually helping us and helping our health for the long term and longevity. All right, take care, have a fantastic remainder to your day, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.